All right. Back on the video recording again. My apologies, dealing with a sick kiddo at home. So I am currently at home with him. Once again, apologies for that. But we're going to get through it and we'll be just fine. Hopefully, be back in the classroom for Wednesday. Just making sure we don't miss a day if we can. So we're going to press on. So, what I'm going to start out with today, I'm just going to get you what you need so you can get to practicing on the assignment. And today's lesson 3.2 is over parallel lines and transversals. Okay, so big learning intention for today is that you guys will be able to use properties of parallel lines to find angle measures and then prove theorems about parallel lines. That'll come later. Really, today we're just focusing on finding angle measures. So, a big if-then statement prior to prior to breaking down into four new theorems. So, I would write this down right here. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then ... Well, you guys kind of did this when you did your discovery activity last Friday. And what you were supposed to find out when you were going through that and completing it is if two lines that are parallel are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. And then consecutive interior angles are actually supplementary angles. Okay, so these relationships only occur if we have two parallel lines being cut by the transversal. If the lines are not parallel, they're not guaranteed to be congruent. That's the catch. That's all you got to know. Now, because of that, we're able to complete all sorts of relationship problems. Okay, so looking at our picture right here to the left, anytime you see these little arrows that are on lines, that denotes that this line right here and this line right here are parallel to each other. Because of that, these theorems become true. So right away, I know that corresponding angles are congruent. So this 120 tells me that angle 5 is also 120. I know that because there are two parallel lines cut by a transversal, and those two angles are corresponding angles. Also, angle 4 is also 120 because that's a vertical angle pair, and vertical angles are congruent. 120 degrees, can't forget our degree symbol. Now, I know that this 120 and this angle 2 are they form a linear pair, which means they're supplementary based on the linear pair postulate. So from there, I can say 180 minus 120 equals angle 2. So that is going to give me 60 degrees for angle 2. But wait, if I know angle 2, I know angle 6 because they're corresponding angles. So angle 6 is also 60. But wait, if I know angle 2, I know angle 3 because angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical angle pairs. So angle 3 is also 60 degrees. And apologies for kind of sloppy writing. I'm using a mouse today. And angle 7. All right, how do we find angle 7? Well, if we know angle 3, we know angle 7. Why? Well, if we take a second, we know that angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding angles. They're in the same placement if I split this into two separate images. So angle 7 would be 60 degrees. If I wanted to look at it from a different lens, I know angle 2 is 60 degrees, and angle 7 is an alternate interior angle. And we have a theorem now, alternate interior angles are congruent if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal. So there's another justification for the same thing. And angle 8. Well, we also know that alternate exterior angles are congruent. So this 120 is going to be our measurement for angle 8, because angle 8 and the 120 are alternate exterior angles of each other. All right, so nothing too crazy to start, but now we're going to get a little mathy with it. This is where our algebra is going to come back into play. See if we like it. So our directions for our 4 example problems tell us to find the value of x. Find the value of x. And we have to use those relationships. First, you want to see if there are 2 parallel lines cut by a transversal. If not, there's other things we have to first figure out. If there are, like in this case on the top left example, well then certain relationships hold. For instance, we know that angle 4 is going to be equal to 115 degrees because that's a vertical angle pair. Because of that, we also know that angle 4 plus this x plus 5 degree angle have to equal 180 because consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So let's go ahead and write that out. Once again, that would be angle 4 plus this x plus 5 degree measurement has to equal 180 because those two angles are supplementary. 180 degrees. Okay, now once again we know the measurement of angle 4, and that's 115 degrees. And substitute that value in. So that would be 115 and then plus x plus 5 equals 180. Well, from here, let's just combine like terms. The 115 and the 5 go to 120. X comes down for the ride, so 120 plus x, and that equals 180. Final step, I would subtract 120 from each side, and to save some space, I'm not going to show that step, but 180 minus 120 is 60. Now, this isn't going to be 60 degrees because we'd have to plug x back in to find what the degree mark would be. However, we did solve for x, so box your answer. Once again, we were able to set up that equation because I know that consecutive interior angles are supplementary, so I set that up to equal 180. I know angle 4 is 115 degrees because it's a vertical angle pair, so those two angles are congruent. And then from there, just simplified down until I could solve or isolate x by itself, or get x by itself. All right, moving on. So, top right example, right here, I have to figure out how am I going to figure out x. And you have a couple of options. The first thing I know or notice is that angle 1 and this 136 degree angle, well, those two angles form a linear pair. So 180 has to be the sum of both these angles. So what's 180 minus 36, or 136, sorry, and that's going to give me my measurement of angle 1. Now when you do this, you'll find that angle 1 is equal to 44 degrees. Once again, 44 plus 136 would take me to 180. And we know that linear pairs have a sum when they're added together to be 180 degrees based on the linear pair postulate. Now, I also know that alternate exterior angles are congruent. So angle 1 and this far right angle, they are the same measurement. So now I just have to set 44 equal to the 7x plus 9. And I can do this because line C and line D have the little arrow markings denoting that they're parallel. So two parallel lines cut by a transversal, we can apply these four different theorems that will help us set up some algebra problems. Okay, so this is going to be 44 equals 7x plus 9. Now I just got to work my way down and solve for x. So subtract 9 from both sides. That's going to leave me with 35 equals 7x. Divide by 7 on both sides. And x is going to equal 5. Or 5 equals x. Okay. So then I'm going to box my answer. Once again, this won't be a degree, because if I wanted to find what the measure of that angle would be, I would have to plug that 5 back in for x and then evaluate. I'm just looking for the value of x for now. Just make sure you read directions on what it's asking you to do. Okay, last two examples. Excuse me for that cough. This bottom left example. Once again, step 1, check to see if your two lines that are being cut by the transversal, just double check that they're parallel lines. Okay, you should see some sort of arrows as such. So line C and line D are in fact parallel. Now, what kind of relationship can we establish between what we know and what we want to know? For instance, here, I know I can apply the alternate exterior angles theorem. Okay, we have two lines being cut by a transversal, two parallel lines being cut by a transversal, that is, meaning the alternate exterior angles are congruent. So to solve for x here, nice and easy, nice friendly problem, I'm going to set 129 equal to 6x minus 3. Then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And that takes me to 132 equals 6x. And you would divide by 6 on both sides, leaving you with 22 equals x. Box your answer. If you wanted to, so you could always confirm that your answer that you got is correct, I could substitute 22 in for x, and if I don't get 129, I know I messed up somewhere because these two have to be congruent. All right, final problem. Let's go ahead and get to it. So right away, it doesn't look like I have much of a relationship to establish between this 120 and this 2x. Okay, so double check. Line A, line B, are they parallel to each other? Okay, sure are. Now, what can I do to establish a relationship where I can solve for x? Well, I notice I can figure out what this angle is right here, because this 120 has to be congruent to the angle straight across from it, because they're vertical angles. So this angle is also 120 degrees because they're vertical angles, once again. Now, I know my last theorem up here, consecutive interior angles theorem, tells me if two lines are cut by a transversal, two parallel lines, have to stress that, then the consecutive interior angles are supplementary to each other. So 120 plus 2x has to be equal to 180. Equals 180. Okay. Now from there, once again, we're going to just use our inverse operations, our properties of equality, to isolate the variable. Subtract 120 from both sides. That's going to leave me with 2x on the left equals 180 minus 120 is equal to 60. And finally, this is 2 times x. I got to get x by itself. I'm going to divide. So x is now by itself. And 60 divided by 2 is 30. And if you notice, if I plug 30 in for x, 2 times 30 is 60. 60 plus 120 does in fact take me to 180. So the relationship does hold true. So I know I did this problem correct. I apologize for all the coughing. Now, if you do have additional questions over the material we covered today, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. A test retake is becoming available for that Chapter 2 test. I plan on being here Wednesday back in class. Please make sure you are working to get the big ideas homework. There's a good chance you'll be able to finish it in class today. It's based on what we just did. Reminder, all you got to look for are these 4 relationships, and you can answer a whole lot of questions. Okay, good luck. Have a great rest of your day. And once again, if you need anything from me, don't hesitate to email, and I'll respond as soon as I can. Have a great rest of your day.